actually both appreciates and respects and values the work of the Environmental Protection Agency and the hard work that the folks at the EPA do every single day to protect our water, to make sure that our air is clean, and that our health as a result is safe. And so it is not a foregone conclusion that the members of Congress don't like or respect or value the EPA. And I think it's important for us to clarify that for the record, and then other members who feel otherwise can speak their piece, but I've spoken mine. I want to go to some of the questions that you tried to address earlier and in your testimony. I want you to describe, if you would, the variability that exists across the country in interpretation of the scope of the Clean Water Act following the Supreme Court decisions. And tell me, if you would, whether other areas were considered jurisdictional by some states and not by others that has resulted in what you describe in your testimony as the lack of clarity following those decisions.
The clarity issue, and again, we've defined in this proposal clear hydrologic science-oriented approaches to determining jurisdiction, as opposed to the general one under the current regulations, which is, will it have an effect on interstate commerce? So I think that's pretty important, and it's going to really instruct the field people who do this work, mostly in the Army Corps of Engineers, to have a more consistent approach and a more consistent sense of how they get the work done. I think that that is my primary reason why I believe that this would be a significant improvement over the existing situation, and I am highly confident that the comments we're getting through the normal administrative process will help us even further improve that.
And let me ask you about that normal administrative process, because you issued the rule in the proposed rule, and let's be clear that it is a proposed rule, in April. Then you did extend the time period, I believe, for response, because you heard from people that from states and from affected individuals, companies, et cetera, that they wanted to be able to respond. And so you've extended that. And so now comments are due by October 20th. Is that correct?
Yes, I think it's 21st, 20th,
around
October, yes.
Needless to say, it's from April, now extended October 20th. And then we still haven't gotten to a place where you've begun to then assemble all the comments, sift through comments, review the work of the SAB, and then incorporate that into what might then become a final rule. Is that correct?
That's correct. But again, I'm being open here and saying that we have seen patterns already from our own conversations, mine personally, where I think there are some things that are just people are not reading it or whatever, and then some are where we need to do the work that you normally do in an administrative process to improve how things are written. So I think we'll have more of it. I want to also mention, because I think this is important to this committee, one of the other reasons we extended the comment period, in addition to the fact we're getting a lot of comments, we wanted to make sure, as I've committed, that the work on the final rule would be not only aided by some of those comments, but also aligned with the Science Advisory Board's process. They are going to look at this rule itself, and they are also going to look at the connectivity report that was associated with it, but their work will be done in the fall time frame as well. So we want to make sure that we get aligned with the Science Advisory Board.
Thanks. And just to go back to an earlier point, do you have some estimate of how long it takes under the current guidelines to make a jurisdictional determination?
I don't. I apologize to everyone who has this question. I don't have some information on that, but I'm happy to get whatever information we have with the Corps of Engineers on the current amount of time it takes to generally go through a jurisdictional
I think that would be useful, because I think it would help to underscore why it is that we need to bring some clarity that would begin to refine the jurisdictional determination period because that, again, would help in terms of moving forward decision-making. And so anything that you could do in that regard would be helpful. I want to further ask you if you can elaborate on the role of clean water in supporting the American economy. What does it mean when we have clean water in terms of its economic impact?
Well, I think we've had an opportunity to talk about this a little bit, but I'm going to summarize here. I think that there are a couple of key areas where clean water is pretty essential, in addition to human consumption, is agriculture. Agricultural productivity in the country depends on clean water and the ability to move it around in an unimpaired by unnecessary regulations. Many manufacturers require clean water, or they end up having to spend money to treat it themselves, to use it. And I want to say also that many communities and the quality of life in a community is improved by having water bodies nearby that people feel comfortable, that they can recreate in and around. And I'll just point to the Potomac River as an example.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.